Now what Gödel actually did was this. He assigned to every, you see, the sentences talked of the various systems he's interested in, never talked about sentences directly. They talked about numbers and sets of numbers, things like that. So how could Gödel construct a sentence which asserts its own non-provability? What he did was this. He assigned to every sentence of the language a number called the Gödel number of the sentence. And then Gödel very ingeniously constructed a certain sentence, or call it X, which asserted that a certain number n was the number of an unprovable sentence. X asserted that a certain number n was the number of an unprovable sentence, but n was the very Gödel number of the sentence X itself. And therefore, in a sense, X is true just in case it's not provable. Which means either it's true and unprovable, or false but provable. Well, if it were false but provable, the whole system would be wrong. The system, they could prove false sentences. Assuming the sentence, all provable sentences are true, like the perfect logician, the sentence in question must be true, but the system can never prove it. Now, since it's true, you can add as a further axiom. Then that sentence becomes provable, and some other sentence becomes unprovable. And if you add some other true sentence, becomes unprovable. And if you add that, then a third sentence becomes true and unprovable, and so forth, ad infinitum. Another thing he did was to prove that if the system was consistent, the system could never prove its own consistency. If the system could prove its own consistency, it would become inconsistent. Now, many people, many popular writers have made the ridiculous statement that it would mean that we can never know that the system is consistent. That's ridiculous. Supposing if a system could prove its own consistency, would that convince you that it was consistent? Of course not. If a system is inconsistent, it can prove anything. So to believe the consistency of a system on the grounds that the system can prove its own consistency would be just as silly as trusting the veracity of a person because he claims that he never lies. By the way, I think that symbolic logic is actually, its importance is overrated by philosophers and underrated by mathematicians.
Why is it underrated by mathematicians?
I don't know why, ask them. But they don't realize how profound some of the results are.